Charlie is a famous actor loved by everyone. His effortless charm has earned him a permanent place in the hearts of millions, and he rarely or never encounters anyone who doesn't love him. His movies are always a hit, very successful, and has it all. Charlie is full of himself and loves the attention he gets from the countless fans. Aiden, recently unemployed, has been searching for a job for weeks. Bills are piling up, and he's on the brink of being kicked out by his landlord. He met his best friend Raphael at a restaurant where Raphael works as a manager, taking a break from a whole day of attending job interviews and also to chit-chat. As Aiden vented about his day, Raphael was on his phone giggling. Aiden stopped and leaned over to see what he was giggling about, only to find Raphael watching an interview with Charlie. Aiden rolled his eyes and said, "What's so special about this self-absorbed, pretentious guy? He's not even that good looking. His acting puts me to sleep." Raphael put down his phone and gasped dramatically, saying, "How dare you say that about Charlie? You know you are lying about him not being good looking. You're my best friend, so I'll let it slide, but don't say this to anyone else. Charlie fans are scary." Aiden rolled his eyes again. "Oh please. You all are just crazy, delusional, and blind. You don't even know what he's really like in real life." All the while Aiden and Raphael were talking, Charlie had been sitting right across from them, listening to their conversation. His ego was bruised. No one had ever said such things about him, and it hurt his pride. He was determined to prove that Aiden was just pretending not to like him, to stand out. When Aiden got up to use the washroom, Charlie quietly followed, waiting at the entrance for Aiden to come out. He took off his disguise, making sure Aiden would recognize him the moment he walked out. After Aiden finished using the washroom, washed his hands, and was leaving, he found Charlie blocking the entrance, leaning against the door with an annoying smirk. Aiden paused, staring at Charlie, waiting for him to move so he could pass. After a brief staring contest, Aiden extended his hand as if to shake, and with a smug smile, Charlie said, "I knew you were just pretending." He reached out for the handshake, but Aiden swung his hand, gesturing for Charlie to move out of the way. Charlie's smile faded, a look of shock crossing his face. He asked, "Don't you recognize who I am?" Aiden replied, "What are you, a washroom security guard or something?" Charlie chuckled in disbelief. If his ego was bruised before then, now it's completely annihilated. He asked, "You really don't know who I am, or are you just pretending?" Aiden, fed up, was about to push past Charlie when a swarm of fans came charging toward them, eager to get an autograph or just touch his clothes. Aiden pushed his way through the crowd and returned to Raphael. When Raphael asked what was going on, Aiden just replied, "It's just a fly." Raphael shot him a suspicious look before going back to his phone. Aiden grabbed his bag to leave and head home, hoping to avoid his landlord. Once at home, he kept applying for more jobs, since none of the interviews he'd attended seemed promising. Later, Raphael called, and the moment Aiden picked up, he heard Raphael yelling at him for not mentioning that Charlie was at the restaurant they had even met. Raphael had seen pictures online of Charlie at the restaurant, including one with Aiden in it. Aiden put the call on speaker and continued what he was doing, knowing Raphael was about to bombard him with questions. Raphael asked what Charlie smelled like if he looked even more charming in person, what he was like if Aiden got an autograph. When Raphael finally finished, Aiden simply said, "You can get your answers when you meet him yourself. I have more important things to worry about than what some actor smells like." Raphael sighed. "Why did I forget who I was talking to? You just killed my excitement." Aiden then asked Raphael if he'd heard back from any of the companies where he'd helped him send his CV, and Raphael replied, "Not yet." Aiden sighed and asked him to keep trying and let him know if any replies came in. Aiden was going on with his life as usual, but on the other hand, Charlie couldn't get him out of his mind. He couldn't sleep at night, couldn't concentrate during filming or interviews. He just couldn't get over how Aiden had spoken about him and snubbed him. One day, his thoughts were interrupted by his manager, who brought him some CVs of applicants to choose from for a personal assistant. Charlie argued that he didn't need a personal assistant, but his manager insisted, saying it wasn't up for discussion and that he needed one because she couldn't keep babysitting him. She placed the CVs on the table and asked him to look through them and pick a few for an interview before walking out. Charlie casually flipped through the CVs, not really intending to choose anyone, until his eyes landed on one that brought a smug smile to his face. It was Aiden's. He read Aiden's name out with a smirk and called his manager back, saying he had already found someone. When she offered to call Aiden for an interview, Charlie said no interview was needed and that Aiden should be hired immediately. The manager gave him a questioning look before leaving to send Aiden an email. The next morning, Aiden woke up and went through his emails, hoping for feedback from at least one of the many companies he had sent his CV to. As he scrolled with little to no hope, he noticed an email saying he had been hired without an interview. Excitedly opened the email with trembling hands, only to see it was from DG Entertainment, offering him a job as a personal assistant. His excitement vanished when he read that the position was to be Charlie's personal assistant. He hadn't sent his CV to any entertainment company, let alone applied to be Charlie's assistant. Instantly realizing who sent his CV there, he called Raphael. Aiden called Raphael and told him about the email he had received. Raphael screamed in excitement over the phone, thrilled that Aiden was going to work closely with Charlie, and expressed how jealous he was. Aiden, however, said he wasn't going to accept the job. Raphael asked why, and Aiden couldn't find an answer. Other than his unexplainable dislike for Charlie, he had no real reason to refuse the job. Raphael reminded him of the bills he had to pay and that he couldn't avoid his landlord forever. Aiden thought about it. He really didn't have any other choice but to accept the offer unless he wanted to risk becoming homeless. He told Raphael he would give it a try, and Raphael eagerly asked him to take exclusive pictures of Charlie so he could brag about it in their fan club. Aiden hung up before Raphael could make any more requests. The night before he was supposed to start his new job, Aiden lay in bed, wondering why he had been hired without even an interview. He remembered his encounter with Charlie and couldn't help but think that maybe Charlie had hired him just to get back at him for that day. He sighed, resigned to whatever might happen, and went to sleep. On his first day of work, Aiden arrived earlier than expected. Charlie's manager greeted him and walked him through his daily tasks as Charlie's assistant before handing him Charlie's schedule. Since Charlie hadn't arrived yet, Aiden used the free time to look around the place. While he was busy looking around, he accidentally bumped into someone. He looked up to see Charlie's smug face. A surge of annoyance washed over him, but he reminded himself that he'd have to endure seeing this face every day from now on. Charlie smirked. "We meet again. Do you finally know who I am?" Aiden replied with a straight face. "Who you are doesn't matter to me. I'm just here to work." Charlie nodded slowly before clearing his throat. "I'm thirsty. Get me some water." Aiden gestured to the water dispenser right next to Charlie. "There's a water dispenser right there." Charlie glanced at it briefly before saying, "I see that, but I only drink bottled water from the vending machine on the 7th floor. The elevators are under construction. You don't expect me to take the stairs, do you?" Aiden asked. "What's that got to do with me?" Charlie replied, "Are you forgetting you're here to work as my personal assistant? This is your first task." Aiden clenched his teeth in frustration, but knew he had no choice. He left to get the water, and the elevators were indeed under construction. The stairs were steep, and he was already tired by the time he reached the 2nd floor. As he trudged up to the 7th floor, he thought about his bills and reminded himself why he had to put up with this. Finally, he reached the vending machine and grabbed the water. When he got back, Charlie was sitting with his legs up, crossed on the table, on his phone, giggling. Aiden handed him the bottle of water, panting tiredly. Charlie took it, glanced at it, and then placed it down casually, saying, "I don't want it anymore. It's not cold, and I only drink cold water." At that moment, Aiden felt an overwhelming urge to punch him. Instead, he forced a smile and said through gritted teeth, "Cold water isn't good for your health." Charlie smirked. "I know, that's why I like it. Now, I'm feeling for some iced milk tea." Aiden stared at him. "You're not seriously asking me to go get you one, are you?" Charlie gave a coquettish smile, batting his eyes as he shrugged his shoulders. Aiden sighed. "There's nowhere nearby to get iced milk tea." Charlie replied, "There is. It's just a 30-minute walk away." Aiden took out his phone to order a ride, but Charlie stopped him. "It'll be faster if you walk." There's a lot of traffic around that area. You need to be back in 30 minutes so we can go to the movie set. Aiden asked incredulously, how do you expect me to get back here in 30 minutes? Charlie just glanced at him and said, time is ticking, before going back to his phone. Aiden clenched his fists, swallowing his anger, and rushed out. He had to sprint both to and from the cafe to get the iced milk tea. By the time he got back, the ice had melted. He looked around for Charlie, but he was nowhere to be found. Just then, Aiden received a text from Charlie saying they had already left for the movie set and that he should come by himself, along with the location. Aiden checked the location and realized it was right near the cafe he had just come from. Frustrated and exhausted, he decided he'd had enough but knew he couldn't just quit. He drank the milk tea, now no longer iced, and headed to the movie set. When Aiden arrived at the movie set, Charlie was already in the middle of filming, so he sat, finally catching a break. Charlie couldn't really order him around on the movie set because he was busy filming the entire time. The moment it was his clock-out time, 9 p.m., as stated in his work requirements, Aiden left without a second thought. When he got home, he slumped onto his couch and immediately called Raphael to vent about his day and how their favorite actor turned out to be evil. Raphael, however, wasn't interested in Aiden's complaints. He just wanted the pictures he had asked for. Just then Aiden got a call from an unknown number. He answered it, only to realize it was Charlie. He had forgotten to save his number. If he had known it was Charlie, he wouldn't have picked up. Charlie asked, why did you leave without my permission? Aiden replied, it was time for me to clock out, so I did. Charlie retorted, you don't leave until I tell you to. Aiden then said, well, I already left. Charlie replied, and now you're coming back. I need you at my house in 20 minutes. I'll send you the location. If you're late, you lose your job. With that, he hung up. Frustrated and annoyed, Aiden screamed into his couch pillow before reluctantly getting up and heading to Charlie's house. When he arrived, Charlie opened the door before Aiden could even knock, as if he had been waiting right there. I'm here now. What do you want? Aiden asked, barely hiding his irritation. Charlie casually replied, I can't find my bedtime socks. I can't sleep without them. Aiden stared at him in disbelief. Is that seriously why you called me back? Charlie replied, isn't that a good reason to call you back? Feeling utterly fed up, Aiden decided not to waste any more words and began searching for the socks, not even bothering to ask what they looked like. Aiden searched the entire house but couldn't find any socks lying around. Frustrated, he returned to Charlie and noticed something sticking out of his pocket. He pulled it, and it was a socks. Isn't this the sock you were looking for? Aiden asked, holding it up. Charlie feigned ignorance, saying, oh, I don't know how it got there. Aiden tossed the sock to Charlie and asked, can I leave now? Charlie shook his head. I need you to read me a bedtime story so I can sleep. Aiden stared at him in disbelief. How old are you? 5? Charlie replied, not exactly a bedtime story. I want you to read my lines from the script for my ongoing film. And while you're at it, memorize them. Why do I need to do that? Aiden asked, so if I forget any lines, I can just ask you instead of looking at the script, Charlie replied nonchalantly. Charlie then walked to his bed and comfortably laid down, then asked Aiden to start reading. Aiden sat by the bed. His anger already exceeded its limits as he began to read Charlie's lines out to him. After a while, when it seemed like Charlie had fallen asleep, Aiden stopped reading and quietly tried to leave, but just as he was about to slip out, he heard Charlie's voice. You're not done yet. Where do you think you're going? Aiden calmed himself down and went back to continue reading. Before he realized, he had fallen asleep. The next morning, Aiden woke up in Charlie's bed, startled to find Charlie standing over him, staring. I thought you wouldn't wake up anymore. I'm hungry. Get me something to eat, Charlie said before walking away. Aiden sat there for a moment, resigned to his fate, before finally getting up and asking Charlie what he wanted for breakfast. Anything is fine, Charlie replied. Not wanting any unnecessary back and forth, Aiden pressed, asking for something more specific, but Charlie repeated, anything. Frustrated, Aiden began listing options: porridge, toast, tea, coffee, eggs, pancakes, but Charlie shook his head at each one, claiming he didn't feel like eating any of them. At his wit's end, Aiden snapped, Are you trying to piss me off? It's too early for this. If you don't know what you want, I'm going to make what I want. If you don't eat it, that's on you. He stormed off to the kitchen, deciding to cook the dish he knew best, noodles. After preparing 2 bowls of noodles, one for Charlie and one for himself, Aiden sat down and started eating without even calling Charlie for his. Charlie approached the table and remarked, "Are you here to eat for free?" Sitting down and taking a reluctant bite of the noodles. He was amazed at how good they tasted, but he hid his reaction and continued eating in silence. When they finished, Charlie handed his bowl to Aiden, expecting him to wash it. But Aiden, with a serious expression, simply said, "You know where the sink is." Charlie immediately turned to the sink and washed his bowl himself, quietly wondering why he was even doing it. Charlie told Aiden that his schedule was free for the day, and Aiden remembered. It really was. Excitement replaced Aiden's anger as he asked, "So that means I can leave and I'm free for the day?" But Charlie responded, "My schedule is free, not yours. I still need you today." Aiden then asked, "Can't I at least go home to take a bath and change?" Charlie replied, "I have a bathroom and clothes. You can do whatever you need to do here." Sighing, Aiden went to take his bath and brushed his teeth with a new toothbrush. In the bathroom, Charlie showed him. When Charlie told him to pick any clothes he wanted, Aiden chose the most expensive-looking one from the closet. Charlie didn't seem fazed when he saw it and just pulled him to sit on the couch with him, turning on the TV. Aiden asked, "What do you need me to do now?" Charlie put on a movie he starred in and said, "You're going to watch all my movies and analyze them to tell me what I need to improve about my acting." Aiden asked, "All of them?" Charlie nodded. Aiden wasn't a fan of Charlie, but he knew Charlie had starred in a million movies because he was literally everywhere in every movie. Charlie patted his shoulder and put on his headphones to play games on his phone, leaving Aiden to watch the movies alone. At first, Aiden was alert, enjoying the movie and impressed by Charlie's acting. He may have lied about finding Charlie's movies boring, but he still didn't like Charlie as a person. After 4 movies, Aiden was tired and wanted to stop watching. But Charlie was right next to him, monitoring him even though he was focused on his game. Aiden silently prayed for something to happen so he could leave, and his prayers were answered when he turned and saw Charlie dozing off. Seizing the opportunity, he quietly grabbed his bag and quickly left. When Aiden got home, he found Raphael relaxed on his couch, munching on his last bag of chips. The first thing Raphael noticed when Aiden walked in was his clothes. He shot up, examined them closely, and exclaimed, "Are these Charlie's clothes?" Aiden responded, "Are you that obsessed that you can even identify his clothes?" Raphael replied, "Of course I can. These are his favorite custom-made clothes. Every Charlie fan can recognize them." Aiden then muttered to himself, "No wonder I was getting strange stares from people on my way home." Raphael asked, "Can you give them to me?" Aiden replied, "How much are you willing to pay for them?" Raphael grinned and said, "What are friends for?" Aiden responded, "There's no friendship in business. Find me when you're ready to pay." He then walked to his room and jumped into his bed, which he had missed after just 1 day away. In the following days, Charlie kept giving Aiden absurd tasks to do, getting on his nerves. Aiden thought to himself that he was going to quit after getting his month's paycheck to cover his rent and some bills, so he started searching for other jobs while still working as Charlie's personal assistant. One day, an obsessed fan followed Charlie home and leaked his address online. The next day, a swarm of fans gathered outside his house, waiting for him to come out. Charlie didn't mind the fans surrounding his house. He loved the attention. He stood at his transparent glass door, waving at them, and enjoying their screams for him. His manager called and asked if he wanted to relocate now that his address had been leaked. Charlie didn't have a problem with it, but an idea struck him, so he said he was concerned for his safety and wanted to move as soon as possible. He decided to buy Aiden's house and live with him. Aiden heard a knock on his door, and when he opened it, his landlord was standing there. Aiden immediately said, "Just give me 5 days, and I'll pay every cent I owe you." But the landlord just asked him to relax, saying he wasn't there to collect rent. Instead, he came to inform Aiden that his house had a new landlord, and that the new landlord would be moving in with him soon. Shocked and confused, Aiden exclaimed, Huh? The landlord simply said that was all he had to say, and then left. Aiden stood there, shocked, wondering who the new landlord could be. He never asked for a roommate, and certainly not an old one. Charlie didn't tell Aiden that he had bought his house and was moving in with him. One night, as Aiden was preparing to sleep, he heard a car pull up in front of his house. Curious, he looked out the window and saw a black van parked outside. To his surprise, Charlie stepped out of the van, carrying several pieces of luggage. Shocked and confused, Aiden quickly rushed outside to make sure he wasn't seeing things. It was really Charlie, along with literally his entire house. Aiden asked, "What are you doing here?" Charlie replied, "This is my new home. Is this how you welcome your new roommate and landlord?" Aiden laughed in disbelief. "You're kidding, right?" Charlie shook his head. "Nope. Now help me with my bags." Aiden asked, "Why should I?" Charlie responded, "Because I'm telling you to." With a growl, Aiden reluctantly grabbed the bags, still trying to process what was happening. It was enough seeing him every day during working hours, but now he was going to see him 24/7, every minute. Once they got inside, Charlie asked, "Where's the biggest bedroom in the house?" Aiden replied, "There's only one bedroom. Didn't you know that before buying it?" Charlie just said, "Okay, then I'm taking it." Aiden protested, "Where do you expect me to sleep? You can't just come in and take over my room." Charlie asked, "Do you want to sleep with me then? You're not paying rent anymore. The least you could do is let me have the bedroom." Aiden's tone and expression immediately changed. "Really? I don't have to pay rent anymore?" Charlie feigned ignorance. "Did I say that?" Aiden quickly responded, "Yes. You can't go back on your own words. I'll pack my things right away." He went to what was soon to be his former bedroom and started packing up his belongings. After hugging his bed one last time, he left the room to Charlie. That night, Aiden slept on the couch, already thinking about turning the small storage room into his new bedroom. The next morning, Aiden got to work transforming the storage room into a bedroom. He called Raphael for help, and when Raphael asked why he wanted to change the storage room into a bedroom, Aiden didn't reply and just asked him to come over. As usual, Raphael entered without knocking, like he owned the place, and headed straight for the fridge to find something to snack on. When he closed the fridge and turned around, his eyes fell on Charlie, lounging on the couch. His jaw dropped in shock, and Aiden came over, jokingly helping him pick it up. Aiden knew Raphael was about to scream, so he quickly covered his mouth before he could and pulled him into the storage room. Before Raphael could ask anything, Aiden said, "Don't ask me any questions about him." Raphael rolled his eyes and began helping Aiden, continuously leaving to sneak peeks at Charlie. Raphael's curiosity got the better of him, and he kept asking why Charlie was in Aiden's house. Finally, Aiden gave in and told him everything. When they were done with the renovation and it was time for Raphael to leave, he went up to Charlie, fanboying, saying how big of a fan he was. Charlie gave a charming smile, saying he was glad to meet him, and even took a picture with him. Aiden rolled his eyes at how pretentious Charlie was being. Before leaving, Raphael whispered to Aiden to call him over anytime he needed something. In the following days, Charlie continued with his unreasonable requests. He would call Aiden from wherever he was just to fetch a remote that was right next to him, wake him in the middle of the night to cook, or get him up early to go to work, only to go back to sleep himself. Charlie always had his driver drive off just as Aiden approached the car, making Aiden take a cab or bus to work, despite now living with Charlie. One day, Charlie had a shoot scheduled in a remote location, but it was canceled due to an impending heavy rain, with news reports advising people to avoid the area due to potential landslides. Charlie didn't ask the reason why the shoot was canceled, so the caller assumed he knew. Normally, Aiden would have answered such calls, but his phone had fallen into water the night before and had stopped working. Charlie felt like pranking Aiden, so he told him to head to the shoot location early because they supposedly needed his help with the setup, even though the shoot had been canceled. He assured Aiden that he would join him later. Without questioning anything, Aiden left, and Charlie watched him go, silently laughing to himself. Charlie then relaxed on the couch, playing games. After a while, heavy rain began to pour. Started to feel a bit uneasy about Aiden, but brushed it off and continued gaming. Sometime later, Charlie accidentally clicked on a news notification about people being trapped in a landslide. His heart raced when he saw that it was at the same location where the shoot was supposed to take place, the same place Aiden had gone. Panic set in as Charlie began pacing around the room, anxiously trying to call Aiden repeatedly. After several failed attempts, he suddenly remembered that Aiden's phone wasn't working. Desperate, Charlie called his driver and asked him to go to the location to search for Aiden, but the driver informed him that all roads were blocked and he can't get through. All Charlie could do was wait anxiously, hoping and praying that Aiden would make it back home safely. After what felt like an eternity of waiting, Charlie couldn't take it anymore and decided to go out, even if it meant walking or running all the way to the place. But just as he opened the door, he came face to face with Aiden, soaked from head to toe. Relief washed over Charlie, but when he tried to speak, no words came out. He just stared at him. Aiden gave Charlie a gutted look and walked past him to his room without uttering a word. Guilt gnawed at Charlie as he hovered outside Aiden's door every few minutes, not daring to knock, but needing to make sure he was okay. He ended up waiting on the couch, hoping Aiden would eventually come out, but then drifted off to sleep. A sudden thud startled him awake, and he found Aiden collapsed on the floor. Panic surged through Charlie as he rushed to Aiden's side, finding him burning up with fever and too weak to stand. He wanted to rush him to the hospital, but his driver still couldn't come, and no one was accepting rides in the storm. Even taxis weren't available. Just as he was about to lose his mind with worry, Raphael showed up, concerned because he hadn't been able to reach Aiden all day. The moment Charlie saw Raphael, he frantically asked if he had driven there. Raphael, confused by Charlie's panic, confirmed he had. He then saw weak Aiden being carried, Charlie asking him to drive them to the nearest hospital immediately. Raphael didn't have time to process everything until they were in the car, speeding through the rain. Once they were on their way, Raphael asked why Aiden was suddenly so ill. With guilt in his voice, Charlie confessed what he had done. Raphael's anger flared. "You really are a jerk. How could you send him there when it was all over the news about the heavy rainfall and warnings to avoid those areas? I'm really disappointed in you." On the verge of tears, Charlie kept apologizing. "I really didn't know. I'm sorry." Raphael pressed on. What if something worse had happened to him? Charlie could only keep apologizing. Raphael sighed and continued driving in silence. When they arrived at the hospital, Aiden was taken in, and after a while, the doctors confirmed that he was okay and just needed rest. When Aiden finally woke up, Raphael eagerly moved to see him, noticing Charlie hesitating by the door. "Aiden's not one to hold a grudge. Just apologize, and you'll be fine," Raphael said, before heading in. Charlie, feeling guilty, walked in slowly. The room fell silent as Aiden stopped talking when he saw him. Charlie asked, "How are you feeling now?" Aiden didn't respond and instead told Raphael that he wanted to sleep. Raphael said he was going to get some food for him and went out. Charlie followed as he figured Aiden didn't want to talk to him. A few days later, with Aiden still not speaking to Charlie, he was discharged from the hospital. That same day, Charlie had to be on set, but found it impossible to concentrate. During a stunt scene, he ended up falling and spraining both ankles, which led to him being sent back home in a wheelchair. Aiden was worried when he saw Charlie in a wheelchair, but didn't show his worry and acted like he didn't care. Charlie, on the other hand, was happy Aiden was back home. The whole day, Charlie tried to do things on his own, putting pressure on his sprained ankle. Aiden, unable to watch any longer, made Charlie sit down while he helped with whatever was needed, though he still didn't speak to him. That night, as Aiden helped Charlie into bed from the wheelchair, he accidentally fell on top of him. When Aiden tried to get up, Charlie pulled him back, close to his face, and gently cupped his cheeks. Pressing his cheek against Aiden's forehead, Charlie said, "You still need to rest. You're not fully recovered yet. Don't worry about me." Aiden rolled his eyes, got off him, and left the room. Aiden continued assisting Charlie with daily activities, all while maintaining his silent treatment. While eating dinner in silence one night, noodles Aiden had made, Charlie finally apologized. "I'm sorry for everything," he began, "for my childish pranks and behavior. I don't know what I would have done if something worse had happened to you that night. I've realized how much I care about you, and I wouldn't be able to live with myself if something happened to you." Aiden quickly stopped him from talking. I already forgave you. I was just waiting for you to apologize. A wide smile spread across Charlie's face. So you're not mad at me anymore? Aiden nodded. Charlie said thank you and returned to his noodles. After taking a bite, he added, I never told you this, but you make the best noodles. Aiden responded, I know, don't try to flatter me. I've forgiven you, but I haven't forgotten all those times you ordered me around. Charlie lowered his head in guilt and continued eating. The next morning, Aiden woke up to a clean and organized house, with the aroma of pancakes filling the air. He looked around in awe and saw Charlie in the kitchen. What's going on? Aiden asked. Charlie pulled him to sit down and handed him a plate of pancakes. Aiden was scared to try it because Charlie didn't look like someone who can even boil water, but he was surprised it tasted really good. When Charlie asked how it was, Aiden replied, not bad. Charlie then offered, I can cook for you every day if you want. Aiden, not missing the opportunity, responded, okay. Charlie had changed and no longer got on Aiden's nerves. He stopped ordering him around unnecessarily and became extra nice to him, always wanting to be close to him. Aiden was enjoying the new Charlie so much that he even forgot about looking for a new job, despite already receiving his month's paycheck. His dislike for Charlie gradually faded, and they started to resemble close friends more than a boss and employee. They grew closer since they spend time together every day of the week. After the filming of Charlie's upcoming movie wrapped up, the cast and crew decided to celebrate with a small party. Charlie enjoyed the party a little too much and ended up getting drunk first. His manager asked Aiden to take him home before he caused a scene and called for the driver. Aiden managed to get Charlie into the car, and as soon as Aiden got in, Charlie shifted closer to him, wrapping his arms around him and resting his head on Aiden's shoulder. Aiden let him stay there, unconsciously running his hand through Charlie's hair. Suddenly, Charlie lifted his head and brought his face close to Aiden's. Aiden could feel his hot breath and the smell of alcohol on his face. What are you doing? Aiden asked, but Charlie didn't respond. Instead, he leaned in and pressed his lips to Aiden's. Charlie's lips were soft, and he could smell his perfume mixed with the alcohol. They kissed slowly, Aiden cupping Charlie's face, already getting lost in the moment. Then, realizing what he was doing, Aiden quickly pulled away, pushing Charlie back, causing his head to hit the side window. Aiden checked on him, only to find that Charlie had already fallen into a deep sleep. Aiden touched his lips and asked himself what he had just done. When they got home, Aiden dragged Charlie inside into his room, then went to his own room, eager to finally relax. Just as he was about to drift off to sleep, Aiden heard Charlie's voice repeatedly calling his name from the living room, sounding worried. Aiden got up and found Charlie anxiously pacing around, looking for him. The moment Charlie saw him, he rushed over and hugged him, sobbing, I thought something bad happened to you. Aiden hugged him back, trying to calm him down. I'm here, it's okay. Aiden tried to take Charlie back to his room, but Charlie didn't want to go alone. Aiden went with him, staying until he fell asleep before returning to his own room. He woke up the next morning tired. Charlie woke up with a bad headache and a bump on the side of his head. He got out of bed and asked Aiden how he got the bump. Aiden replied, Don't you remember anything from last night? Charlie paused, trying to recall, and then everything came rushing back to him, including the kiss. He quickly shook his head, saying he didn't remember, and went back to his room. Aiden mumbled to himself, I knew it. Meanwhile, Charlie sat on his bed, touching his lips as the memory of every detail of the kiss played back in his mind. With filming done, Charlie's schedule was much freer, meaning he would be staying home more often. There was a lot of tension in the house, between Charlie and Aiden. They couldn't be close to each other for more than a minute without getting flustered. One midnight, Aiden woke up hungry and went to the fridge to find something to munch on. At the same time, Charlie, half asleep, woke up to get water. He didn't notice Aiden at the fridge until he opened it, startling Aiden, who turned around, their faces suddenly inches apart, and their lips brushed against each other. Charlie became wide awake as they stared into each other's eyes, neither moving. Aiden heard a strange sound, and still locking eyes with Charlie, asked inaudibly, What's that sound? Charlie placed his hand on Aiden's chest and replied, That's your heart racing. Aiden then placed his hand on Charlie's chest and said, yours too. Charlie moved his hand from Aiden's chest to his neck, then to his cheek, gently caressing it. He began leaning in for a kiss but hesitated and asked, can I kiss you? Aiden replied, you didn't ask for permission the first time. And you forgot about it, Charlie admitted. I didn't forget. I just didn't know how to admit that I remembered. Aiden nodded, but went silent. Charlie asked again, so, can I kiss you? Aiden replied, I can't answer that. Charlie then said, okay, then push me away if you don't like it. Slowly, he leaned in, and Aiden met him halfway. Their lips met in a cold, passionate kiss, their bodies pressing against each other, with Aiden's back leaning against the fridge shelves. Aiden could feel a tingling sensation in his stomach, the sound of their heartbeat becoming one. Charlie could taste the yogurt Aiden had just eaten and kissed deeper to taste more of it. As much as Aiden didn't want the kiss to end, he started feeling the chill from the open fridge. Gently, he pushed Charlie back, barely managing to open his heavy eyelids before closing the fridge. Expecting the kiss to continue, Aiden was surprised when Charlie simply said, good night, and went back to bed, leaving Aiden feeling disappointed as he returned to his own room. The next day, Charlie acted as if nothing had happened, leaving Aiden wondering what they were now after kissing twice. He hadn't even figured out his feelings for Charlie yet. He called the person he could talk to about it Raphael. He asked Raphael to come over, but Raphael refused, saying he couldn't face Charlie after calling him a jerk. Aiden chuckled and said, at least I know now that you love me more than him. Instead, Aiden went over to Raphael's place to talk. He told Raphael everything about the kisses with Charlie and how Charlie was now acting like it never happened. Raphael screamed in excitement for a minute before calming down. He advised Aiden to just ask Charlie why he was acting that way, but Aiden said it was too embarrassing. Raphael then suggested Aiden create a situation where they'd have to talk about it. Aiden nodded, agreeing to try, and Raphael asked if he liked Charlie. Aiden admitted he wasn't sure. Raphael asked if Aiden felt butterflies when he saw Charlie, if his heart raced, if he got jealous when Charlie was too close to someone else, if he found himself thinking about him, always wanting to be near him, and if he ever felt like ripping off Charlie's shirt. Aiden thought for a while. He had experienced everything Raphael mentioned, except tearing off the shirt. Back home, Aiden kept opening the fridge in front of Charlie, trying to remind him of the kiss, and kept dropping hints to remind Charlie of the kiss, but Charlie remained oblivious. Finally, Aiden had enough and directly asked, why are you acting like nothing happened between us the other night? Charlie looked confused. I'm not acting. I just didn't want you to feel uncomfortable. Aiden asked why he would feel uncomfortable, and Charlie replied, you pushed me away, so I figured you didn't like it and probably wouldn't want to talk about it. Aiden remembered he did push Charlie away, because he was freezing. He told Charlie, I didn't push you away because I didn't like it. Charlie's eyes lit up. So, you liked it? Aiden replied, don't ask me questions like that. It's embarrassing to answer. Charlie chuckled, then moved closer to Aiden and said, okay, then I'll ask like this. He leaned in and kissed Aiden on the lips. And you can answer back or not. Aiden nodded, then pulled Charlie into a long, intense, yet gentle and passionate kiss. After breaking the kiss, Charlie gave a satisfied smile and pecked Aiden on the lips. Aiden asked, so, what are we now? Charlie replied, what do you want us to be? Aiden hesitated. I don't know. I'm not sure what dating a famous actor with a lot of obsessed fans would feel like. I've heard your fans can be scary. The only thing Charlie focused on was the word dating. He grinned and asked, so you want us to date? Aiden sighed. Is that all you heard from what I said? Charlie chuckled. You don't have to worry about my lovely fans. They love whoever I love, and I know they won't have a problem with us dating. Aiden asked skeptically, how do you know that? Charlie took Aiden's hand, interlocking their fingers, and snapped a picture to post online with the caption, my boyfriend everyone. Within minutes, there were thousands of comments excitedly supporting the post and eager to see the face of the lucky person who had won Charlie's heart. Charlie looked at Aiden with a smile. I told you. Aiden glanced at the caption and asked, who's your boyfriend? Charlie smirked. Someone named Aiden, standing right in front of me. Aiden looked around as if he didn't know who Charlie was talking about. Charlie pulled him close and kissed him. You, he said softly. Aiden finally relented. Fine, I'll accept. You seem like you can't live without me. Charlie grinned. I can't, and then hugged Aiden, saying, I love you. Aiden wanted to say it back, but hesitated. He was now sure of his feelings for Charlie, but felt it was still too early to say it. Instead, he hugged Charlie tightly, letting his actions speak for him. Charlie got his message even though Aiden didn't say it back, willing to wait till he was ready to say it. The two started dating and got to know each other better every day. Charlie didn't want to move back to his big house and just wanted to stay in the small house with Aiden. Aiden moved back to his former room, now sharing it with Charlie, and they cuddled up together every night to sleep. Charlie wanted to post a picture with Aiden to reveal and show off his boyfriend's face, but Aiden didn't want that. He just wanted to enjoy his private relationship with Charlie. They continued to learn new things about each other every day. Aiden finally said the 3 words Charlie had been yearning to hear. That day, Charlie was the happiest he had ever been, smiling the entire day and making Aiden say it to him over and over again.